Let me ask you a serious question. What happens when the people who built the country start deciding they've had enough of it? That's what we're witnessing right now. A quiet migration, driven not by hate, but by exhaustion. Thousands of Black Americans aren't just talking about leaving the US, they're doing it. They're moving to Ghana, Portugal, Mexico, Kenya, Belize. Not because they hate America, but because they're tired of fighting to exist in it. And before anyone says, but things are better now, let's look at what's really happening. Because behind this wave of departures is a growing belief that the current US administration is quietly, systematically cutting Black Americans out of the nation's future. The fear isn't paranoia, it's rooted in reality. Under the current administration, civil rights protections have been stripped from agencies, diversity programs defunded, and policies rewritten to weaken enforcement against workplace and housing discrimination. The Project 2025 framework, widely backed by key officials, explicitly aims to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives across federal departments, remove anti-bias training, and shift civil rights oversight away from enforcement toward local control. In plain English, that means fewer protections, fewer jobs, and less recourse for discrimination. But it goes even deeper than that. The Supreme Court, stacked with conservative justices, is now signaling its intent to dismantle Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the last surviving piece that protects Black voters from racial discrimination in elections. Section 2 is what keeps southern states from redrawing maps to silence Black voices. If it falls, states like Georgia, Alabama, and Texas could legally dilute or erase Black voting power altogether. It would take the United States right back to Jim Crow, just with better branding. Legal scholars and civil rights groups have warned that this would gut the constitutional protection of the Black vote, effectively giving states free rein to suppress turnout under the cover of election integrity. It's not hypothetical. It's happening in real time. Studies have shown how this kind of political rollback fuels chronic stress, anxiety, and depression among Black Americans. A 2023 report by Harvard psychiatrists Donna Norris and Anel Prim warned that racism, and especially government inaction on it, has become a public health crisis, with measurable effects on blood pressure, immune function, and life expectancy. This is the first time since the 1960s that many Black Americans feel their federal government isn't just indifferent, it's actively working to erase their progress. Let's talk about money, because this Blaxit movement isn't just about fear, it's about survival. While the stock market breaks records, Black home ownership is near a 60-year low. Unemployment among Black Americans is rising again, even as national numbers drop. Many Black professionals report being pushed out of positions under the guise of restructuring or AI replacement. When diversity is de-emphasized, guess whose jobs are cut first? According to economists at the Brookings Institution, Black workers remain overrepresented in low-wage sectors that are being automated, while the current administration's labor and tax policies overwhelmingly benefit corporations and high-income earners. This trickle-down resurgence means less mobility for working-class families and more debt for Black households already hit hardest by pandemic losses. And when wealth creation is blocked, mental health suffers. Black professionals describe the exhaustion of working twice as hard for half the recognition, of being one mistake away from ruin. That emotional toll, what researchers call racial battle fatigue, is one of the leading reasons Black Americans are seeking a reset abroad. Now layer that with fear, literal, physical fear. The US Department of Homeland Security has warned that domestic extremist threats against Black communities have increased since 2024. Hate crimes are up. Police killings of unarmed Black men haven't stopped. They've just stopped making the front page. And while the government claims it's protecting democracy abroad, it's undermining it at home, not just through policy, but by allowing Black citizens to live under the constant threat of state violence. Imagine being told you're free while the Supreme Court is quietly preparing to take away the legal foundation of that freedom, the right to vote and be counted. That's not just political, that's psychological warfare. As Norris and Prim note, the ongoing exposure to police violence and racial terror leads to collective trauma, a condition where even watching someone else's suffering triggers your own psychological distress. That means entire communities live in fight or flight mode, year after year. It's not just unhealthy, it's unsustainable. To live as a Black American is to constantly negotiate your existence. You're expected to stay calm under oppression, to explain racism to those who benefit from it, to celebrate progress that doesn't protect you. That's what psychologists now call racial hypervigilance, always scanning for threat, never truly resting. This chronic stress leads to higher rates of heart disease, hypertension, and sleep disorders. Black children, even those from middle-class families, show stress markers comparable to war zone survivors. The system doesn't just exploit labor, it erodes spirit. And here's the thing. When people say, if you don't like it, leave, more and more Black Americans are finally saying, okay, but they're not fleeing, they're seeking peace. So what now? Should everyone just pack up and leave? Not necessarily. The answer isn't flight, it's freedom of choice. First, those who stay must invest in Black-owned infrastructure, schools, banks, clinics, so no administration can silence economic power. The more we circulate our money, the less they can control our destiny. Second, we need mental health liberation, therapy that acknowledges racism not as a symptom, but as a trauma source. Culturally competent clinicians are key, as emphasized by leading psychiatrists. Third, we build transnational bridges. If the US can't protect us, let's create our own safety nets between diaspora communities, sharing resources, education, and entrepreneurship across borders. That's not running, it's evolving. The truth is, Black Americans leaving the US in 2025 is both a tragedy and a revelation. It exposes what this nation refuses to fix, and it proves that freedom is not a location. It's a state of being. Every departure is a protest. Every relocation is a declaration. I will not die proving my worth to a country built on my labor. Whether you stay or go, the mission is the same. Build a life where your Blackness is not a burden, but a birthright. It's not about escaping, it's about evolving. If you've been feeling the pull to leave, to live differently, subscribe, because this journey is bigger than borders.